What the fuck is up with this desk today? God. Today's episode is recorded with an SM7B. B stands for brilliant for broadcasting, but also an all-around beast for a bunch of bullshit. The first thing I get into when I do my vocal chain is compression. Something that doesn't add a lot of character, like this compressor from Avid, the Pro compressor. Shouts out to the boys at Avid, you know what I'm saying, bitch. I don't really like emulations for this stage, as I'm only aiming for normalizing and achieving a velocity balance in my recording. So aiming for between 9, 12 dB gain reduction. Don't suggest yourself with the fucking meters. Listen first. Trust your ears. You want it sounding fairly compressed, but by any means not sounding compressed like a sausage. That's some good shit. 2 ratio, 7.4 milliseconds attack. With rap, you want to generally give the attack just the time to let the transients through, listen for the clarity in the sibilants, and bring the attack just over the point where it's starting to mess with how the consonants sound. Release time! With the release time, I tend to listen to the sound of the room that I recorded in, and the more of that sound and space I want for my recording, the shorter release I'm gonna set, so it'll enable the reverberation to come back through really fast. I typically don't do that, so I'm gonna set a fairly high release of 300.
Bang bang.
Makeup gain is makeup gain. The knee, I tend to usually leave it where it is. Under my ass! Not funny. Second part of the chain. Subtractive EQ. The fucking janitor of the mixing game. But without that guy, you will have pieces of potatoes and empty bottles laying all over your shit. Way to do it. Ozone EQ or Neutron EQ, any one of those modules are pretty great. The Ableton stock EQ is pretty boss. The equalizer from FabFilter is pretty sick. What you basically need from that plugin is the ability to hold Alt and solo a narrow-ass band. Then you're gonna listen to it as you swipe through the frequency range and you search for the fucking potatoes. Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it. You know you gotta be yourself, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah. Damn. Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah. Anything annoying, anything piercing, you get the idea. You want to get rid of it. Either dynamic or normal EQ. You tend to want to listen to this fairly loud, but don't fuck your ears up. The optimal listening level, according to the Fletcher-Monson curve, is 83 dB SPL. If you don't know how to get there, there's apps that'll measure it for you. Go figure. So typically, after I've found my potatoes, I typically want to include a low cut. Let me hear it. I know what you want to say. I really can't figure out how that would be useful, so I just get rid of it. Let me hear it. I know what you want to say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it. You know you gotta be yourself, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Takes off some of the mud, makes it a little bit more airy. Next up, the Deesser. By any means, this is not a rule of thumb. You shouldn't toss this on your chain just because some guy doing a YouTube video told you to. If there's anything you take away from this video, make it be the last sentence. You shouldn't toss a Deesser on your chain unless you really hear those sibilants piercing your ears. I put my Deesser right after the janitorial work, the compression and subtractive EQ. That way, once I get into pulling my higher frequencies up, harmonic excitation, etc., I am enhancing and not having to worry about what I haven't cleaned before I got to that point. It's basically like, imagine that you want to paint your walls and make them all pretty, but before you do that, you smear a lot of chicken soup all over the walls. Now, that way, wait, what? Point is, clean up first and then add stuff to make it pretty. All right, motherfucker. Back to it. I use Deesser because my sibilants are pretty harsh. Not every Deesser works the same. I tried the stock plugin in Pro Tools, the Sonox Oxford Suppressor, absolute beast. But the algorithm that I find that works the best for my voice is the iZotope RX6 Deesser. Shouts out to the guy running iZotope Incorporate on Instagram. You are a fucking god. I start by setting the frequency. My sibilants tend to get annoying already at 5K. What is cool with this plugin is that you have this output S only option, which will output whatever is being compressed by the plugin. Let's have a listen to it. Godly. And the threshold of how much exactly you want these sibilants to be compressed. Delicate thing. Don't keep on listening to this over and over again because your ears get accustomed to this very quick. Normally I make this a quick adjustment and then I throw the render on my phone on some shitty 30 euro headphones. They usually tend to pretty well reveal those piercing frequencies. And then I might come back and eventually adjust it. So that's a pro tip, and you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to find yourself sounding like Mike Tyson in these beats. Yeah, right. One really sick feature about this plugin is that you have the spectral shaping option right here, which basically gives you the option to replace your sibilants with a noise profile of your choosing. Pretty mind-blowing. I'm not really going to use it. The last two controls to adjust is the response of the compressor. With rap vocals, which are quite dynamic, you obviously want it on fast. Let's see how it sounds.
Don't let her put no shackles on you. Get toasted, get toasted, get toasted, get get toasted, 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 get.
I'm not making that joke. Moving on, harmonic excitation. How exciting. Not funny. The way it works deserves a separate video, to be honest. What it does, it gives the vocal more body, presence, character, and if you overdo it, it'll sound distorted. Unless, of course, it's what you want for the purpose of your song. Where to do it? Shitloads of options. Soft tube saturation knob, saturator in Ableton, sound goodizer, or fast distortion in FL Studio, if that's what you're fucking with. With FL, the cool thing is that you always have this dry wet knob next to your bypass switch, so you can do a gentle parallel distortion. What works best for me is the exciter module in either the ozone or neutron. They're both almost the same but kind of different. That makes no fucking sense. How to do it? You want to select the bands that you need to alter. So you solo the band, you pull the drive quite a lot until the point that you figure out how much of the actual drive you actually want, and then you end up deciding how much of a blend between the clean and the altered distorted signal you want. And then you go across the bands. With both plugins, you of course get to choose what kind of an algorithm you want it to be distorted by. And then once you're more than less done, you should bypass and gain match to see the actual results.
Get toasted inside, all the emotions under the pressure, boiling up into anxiety and depression, thinking guys like me.
Sounds like shit. One thing that I adore for my vocal mixing chain is pulling up the crisp, this airiness in my vocal. Now be mindful of the fact that if your vocals haven't been properly de-essed in the prior stages of the mixing, this process is gonna even make them more piercing and unpleasant. Additive EQ, unlike the subtractive EQ, which takes away from the signal. Additive EQ, on the other hand, I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Now, any EQ will do it for you, obviously, more than less the same job, but different EQs work in a different way, and I find that the emulations kind of give it their own character. What you should do is pick a few different EQs you have at stock, set it to the same settings, and solo each and every one to see which for you sounds the best. My Toya choice, the Trident A range. Boy, oh boy. 2 to 3 dB at 15K, 12K, a little more of the high mids. Tour Eiffel, nique ta mère. Let's see the difference.
Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it. You know you gotta be yourself, so let me.
Nice and airy. Last, but not last. Parallel compression. Now, if you hear parallel anything, it either means that the two lines are the same distance apart and they will never meet, or that you are processing a copy of a signal on a return track and then you adjust the ratio of the dry and the wet signal together. So like I said, either you send your vocals to a return track with a compressor on it, or you find yourself a compressor that has a dry wet mix knob. Now with parallel compression, you want to whack the signal quite a lot, compress it a lot, and then you're gonna pull it right under the original signal just so it supports it a little bit, gives it more character, puts it a little bit to the front of the mix. Only if you, of course, intend to have your vocal as the main focus of the composition. Fuck! That's a lot of shit. The last thing I tend to usually stick to is reverb. I know, it's normally used as an effect, but think about it. You naturally hear voices in reverberant spaces, unless you're schizophrenic. So hearing the vocal recording in this very dry booth sometimes might have an unnatural effect, make the vocal sound like it's separate to the rest of the production. Hence, reverb on a return track, play with some presets, see what sounds cool, leave it there, quiet, barely audible, but it puts the vocal in a space, gives it a little bit more air, gives it a little bit more life. Be gentle with it, try different settings, and leave it on 100% wet.
Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it. You know you gotta be yourself, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the context of the beat, it sounds like this.
Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it. You know you gotta be yourself, so let me hear it. Yeah.
So not a huge effect, mainly a psychoacoustic thing. Whoa, we did it! Thank you guys for sticking around till the end. I hope you learned something useful that'll bring joy into the results of your creative process. There is really a lot more into what I've discussed with you today, and I honestly think that this change should be discussed in more depth. A lot of those interventions and whether or not to use them will obviously depend on your performance, dynamic range, tonal range, the color of your voice. By any means, do not do it the same exact way like I did it. Fiddle with different settings, plugins, watch some Dave Pensato, take frequent breaks for your ears while mixing, and stay creative and keep hustling. The song I was working on is called Lemme Hear It by Augustyn, which is me. Check it out on SoundCloud. There's a video to that song that'll drop soon.
Let me hear it. I know what you wanna say, so let me hear it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me hear it.
Buddha Boy Mixtape Volume 1 will drop in April, and then that song will be available to you on all digital platforms. If you need beats, if you need your shit mixed, send me an email to the address that you will find in the description. Follow me on Instagram, check my music out on SoundCloud, Deezer, Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Tinder, and AOL. Peace.